We're recording, I think, right?
Correct. We are recording.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So awesome. Hey, welcome to Coffee Connect, everyone. I'm Rodney. I'm the host here. We're going to talk today about a topic that came into my mind because for some of you that don't know, I'm taking some master's classes right now, and some of the classes we're in is leadership and strategic uh, development for organizations, right? And so it's weird because I'm the old guy in the group, and we started talking about we had to analyze an employee survey, right? An employee job satisfaction survey, and a lot of these young folks are talking about feedback, right? But their mindset in feedback is that there's some form that has to be filled out, right? there's some physical form process to be able to give somebody feedback, a 360 review or something like that. And I'm the old guy, and I'm like, listen, if I see something that Warren is not doing correctly, Warren and I, as colleagues and as friends and as hopefully people that want to help each other do better, should be open enough for me to come up to Warren and say, hey, Warren, can I talk to you about something real quick? And directly reflect on whatever behaviors or actions or whatever that I'm seeing from Warren to hopefully correct the behavior, right? It's weird. So we've been getting in this argument, and I thought, man, you know what? I want to bring this conversation to all of you, right? All of us got a lot of experience. I think if we probably added up the years of experience in this room, it would probably calculate definitely into the hundreds, if not the thousands of years of experience in communicating with others and feedback and such like that. So I just want to kind of talk about that today. If you enjoy the conversation and you're not part of the invites, please email me, ccinfo@addictedtoconnecting.com. I'm sorry, ccinfo, yeah, that's right, ccinfo@addictedtoconnecting.com. And feel free to check out the website, guys, where you can check out the YouTube playbacks for all past sessions. So we'll go ahead and get started on this conversation. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different studies out there that talk about communication and feedback and how it relates and stuff. And it's weird that there's this typical sense of what feedback should be, but yet studies show and educators research depicts that really feedback should be something much broader, much wider than what we perceive it to be. And so really today's about creating those conversations. We've all seen this typical communication channel that takes place, that when I'm talking to you as the sender, right, I might be using all kinds of different language, not just verbal language, right, but my body language and stuff like that, that you as the receiver are decoding, right, to hopefully interpret whatever message that is. And you know, if your eyes are a little slanted or you're scratching your head a little bit, those signals might be coming back to me in a way that tells me otherwise, that you're receiving it in the correct manner, right? And so purpose of feedback, right, is to foster self-awareness and behavioral reinforcement, both in a positive way or change, right, in the recipients of the communication. And so I'm going to go to breakout right away because I think this is important for us to just kind of share what our thoughts are on feedback, what we all perceive it to be, right? And so two of the questions I'm going to send us to breakout room. Jeff, if you can start getting those prepped up for breakout session, I appreciate it. Share your thoughts on, you know, what you have typically found feedback to be. And then I also want you to kind of express upon what you would like it to be, right? What you think it should be, right? In either your work environment or in your home environment. I said, we all have feedback. And I think if couples, I'm going to relate this to marriages, right? And Tony, I don't know what it is over in the UK, but divorce rate here in the US, right, is huge, man. I mean, and typically it's because of really small things that we argue over that we feel like we can't find common ground on. Whereas if people could just learn to give feedback better, I think it would open up the dialogue a lot more so that they could have conversations around those problems. So share your thoughts on what you think, what you typically found feedback to be and what you think it should be. Jeff, you ready? Perfect. We're going to go for about 8 minutes, guys. I do have 3 breakout rooms set today. So 8 minutes, introduce yourselves. If you don't know each other, go into the conversation. Be prepared to talk about what you talked about when we get back here. Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, so feedback, guys. Give me some.
You're rubbish.
I can accept that. Why do we say that? I just want to understand why, right? I think asking those questions is relevant, and not being afraid to ask those questions. What else?
Well, we said it needs to be constructive, and it needs to be kind of even-handed. You need to tell people what they're doing right, but also where they could improve. And I use myself as I did a session and I got 10 out of 10 off everyone, and I said that's just not real. I'm not perfect. There's definitely things that I need to improve, and therefore I need to know what they are. I can't improve if you don't tell me. But don't wreck the person by saying, well, like I just did deliberately as a joke for you. But if you've got something, you need to back it up with facts and figures as well, not just say it as a statement. Because we all do things wrong, and hopefully we'd all like to learn to improve. So constructive. And right at the end, one of us said, also you need to probably be in the right frame of mind to take some constructive criticism as well, because you might react slightly wrongly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We had the same thing. Basically, don't just bring up the negative. Maybe start with here's what went right, and then down the end, okay, here's what we need to fix, rather than just leading in with here's what went wrong, this is what went wrong, you're this, you're stupid. It's like start with the positive and start with that, and give somebody some good feelings about themselves, and then get to okay, now here's what we need to improve.
So that all encompassing versus just pointed at the negative. What are some other important components to it?
The other person never listens, or the other party never listens.
The receiver.
Yeah, the receiver never receives the information and stuff. It just doesn't penetrate. When I speak, they don't hear.
They're like, hold on, let me take my headset off, and meanwhile, they were wearing double hearing protection.
Well, we felt that for it to be effective, that there still has to be sort of a mutual trust, so that so both parties can be honest with each other in order to have it go well, or each party to truly give what his or her
kind of getting into phase 2 of this, right? We're kind of getting into phase 2 as far as what's holding us back from being able to have good feedback. So let's hold off on those. I mean, I want to just hear your perceptions, right? What did you guys think feedback is? I asked about component wise, right? How effective is it if I see Tim doing something that's goofy, right? And I wait 3 weeks to talk. Hey, remember 3 weeks ago you were, and Tim's like, no, I don't remember crap about 3 weeks ago. There are some components, I think, to it too, that we as leaders have to be aware of, right? That it's got to be timely, right? And applicable to what's taking place. What else? What else did you guys hear as far as perception of what feedback is, or what they've seen feedback to be?
Throw something out. Sometimes it's not even like at the end of a project or something like that. There was one time, and I can't even remember what I was mad about at the time, but my boss could tell I was really upset about something. And this was when we worked downtown, and he said, it's cold outside. Let's go take a walk. And we went down to the river and we chucked snowballs in the river. And he's like, I'm every bit as mad as you are about this. And that was just a way for us to let some energy go. And I knew he had my back. And that's, sometimes it's not necessarily even something that you think of, day to day. It was just knowing that, they had your back and they were willing to, go take a walk with you down to the river and chuck snowballs when you were both, when you were both upset about something. And it was, that was a very, the infamous male bonding moment. It was just kind of, it was good to know that he had my back.
Yeah, I remember days back in the Navy, man. We had to smoke out on the deck, right? We didn't smoke in the plants or in the ship or whatever, right? It was always out on the sponsons and stuff. But listen, if you had a captain or a commander or something that didn't smoke, right? That said, hey, but he knew you smoked, right? And he said, let's go up to the smoke deck. You knew conversations were about to be really real. You didn't have to worry about what you were going to say or who was going to say it or whatever, that you were probably going to walk off that smoke pad with real solutions to whatever the problems were that were in front of you stuff. And so absolutely, Joe. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else do we know?
I think someone said it in the room, you have to respect the source of the feedback, because otherwise you won't actually take it on board. Or you will actually go the opposite way and bucket it.
Yeah, I think you have to, right? So as we go through, right, some of this stuff, I think what we know, and you guys have hit on these a lot, right? It often fails to promote learning, right? Tony was talking about being constructive, right? Improvement with the recipients. Recipients must overcome those barriers, right? We were talking about, usually there's obstacles put up there. Being open, considering and acting on that feedback, right? We gotta, if you're not open to being coached, then it's going to be a more difficult conversation than anything. And me as a leader, right, or you as as someone who's following me is going to be even more. We're going to be pushed apart even further if you're not open to coaching and you're not taking the coaching that I'm trying to give you, right? So trust goes a long way, I think, when it comes to that. And so let's kind of, and we started hitting upon this, as I said, why does a typical perception of feedback fall short of the possibilities that exist of what it could be? And I think this goes back to and we're going to go to another breakout, Jeff. Hopefully you got them shook up for us a little bit. This goes back to my conversation I was sharing with Lamar and them. I said, I'm putting out resolutions in my course that I'm taking about open conversations and transparency and stuff. And people are giving me this notion, these young kids are giving me this notion that I should have a formal 360 review feedback report and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I think feedback should be way more, it's a tool that we should always use, right? It's something that should always be at my side that I can just pull out at any one time. It shouldn't be something that I have to go to my office for and close the door and fill out a form and make it all legal-like or whatever if I don't need to, right? Not every behavior needs that kind of documentation and stuff like that. And who's going to fill out a 360 form for their wife, right? I mean, nobody's doing that, right? But so we've got to use feedback in a better, in a more simpler way, I think.
Heck no, because I might get one back.
Oh, she already has yours filled out, I'm pretty sure. Right? They might actually share them when we do trainings and stuff. So anyway, guys, so let's go to this next breakout and talk about what barriers are holding it back from hopefully being what it could be for us. You good, Jeff?
How long do you want this one?
7 or 8 minutes is good again. Yep.
All right, same time.
Awesome. I sat in with the ladies. It was all lady room, and I just wanted to make sure that they were acting accordingly and stuff, and not talking bad about you guys. But listen, I think there was a general consensus in there that we just all hate leaders. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. That wasn't it. Well, so what's holding us back, right? What, not just us, but what's holding recipients back from establishing feedback in a more holistic sense that happens on a frequent basis and all of those things, right? That's constructive and has the components that we talked about, right? What's holding them back?
So something I was saying, your environment plays a big part in that. So like if you're in a sports environment or something competitive where the direct feedback, you're either learning from the experiences or someone can tell you something on the fly that will change your perspective for what's going on. So I think environment plays a lot to do with it. And if you come from that environment, then you are much more susceptible to receiving feedback almost from anyone because you start to understand that everybody has a different approach to certain things and any little bit you pick up on can be helpful.
That's a great point, Ray. You know, and I look at we look at the Detroit Lions, right? Guys, they are rocking it. Okay, we mentioned the Cavs earlier, right? What happened in the Cavaliers organization this last year? They got a new coach, right? They got a new leader. They got a new vision of where they were wanting the team to go and what they wanted them to be. And so setting that tone and setting that culture it makes a huge difference. What else?
I didn't say it in our discussion, but being in a training environment where if feedback is expected and anticipated probably will have a big influence on this. When I'm taking someone to the range and teaching them to shoot a pistol, they expect me to correct them. They expect me to adjust their hand positions. They expect me to explain what's going to happen and how they're expecting a lot of little advice that's going to come out of the conversation and the repeated practice.
So the expectation was that you were going to teach them how to shoot, right? How many of you guys have been a part of an organization that you got hired into and you thought it was going to be a great organization, but nobody ever sat down with you to say, okay, where do you want to be 5 years from now, or where do you want to be 2 years from now, or and how can I, right? How can I, your leader or your supervisor, help you get from point A to point B? Right. I mean, I think we've all been there. Right? I mean, I've seen hands raising up and down, right? But we've all been there. Right. And so part of this falls back on sometimes we develop leaders from within an organization, but how much time do we actually take to training those leaders or those people, I should say, to be leaders, right? Tony, you look like you're waving your hand like you're gonna say something. You're ready to like scream.
Well, I said in the room, and it hasn't happened enough. And I used to do it. Is catch people doing things well, not looking to catch people doing things wrong. And it has to be of the moment. Some of these feedbacks you get and the yearly this and the 360 that, it needs to happen there and then. When you do a formal presentation and you get the feedback straight away, that's okay. But it's in everyday life, as I say, if you catch that, Karen was in the room, I said, I caught her dealing with someone, and I thought she dealt with it really well. Go and tell her there and then, I caught you doing something really well. That means a lot more. Telling her a week later in the weekly update meeting, it's probably been forgotten. We don't do it enough. Catching people doing things well and letting them know. We'll have a shout at them when they're doing things wrong. Yeah, but that's counterproductive.
Yeah, absolutely. I was sharing earlier that in the military, we go on deployment, and then at the end of deployment, they're like, fill out your end of deployment awards. It could have happened at the very first week of deployment, but you're waiting 6 or 8 or 10 months to fill out an award for it. And it's like, it's pointless. And crazy is I've watched that cycle go where getting to the end of the deployment, I mean, you can hand out 1,000 Navy Achievement Medals, and everybody was getting one. It was like Halloween candy, right? And then I've seen other cycles where you get to the end of the deployment, they're like, you got 2. You can hand out 2. Who are you giving them to, right? And so at that point, it doesn't give any kind of meaning to the recognition and stuff as well. So great point, Tony. Thank you. What else, guys?
I think, am I on? I think a big issue is, as we've been talking about, a lot of leaders don't know how to, I guess, give feedback, and a lot of employees like me are just used to being beaten down. and they don't, you need to go around and say, hey, good job today, or, how's your day going? You know, there's not enough positive feedback given at all, I think, in a lot of situations, many places I've worked.
You're absolutely right, Renette. I mean, I don't think we know the value of just simple words.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
man, great job today,
Yeah.
right? You're doing such an awesome job with the line or
Yeah.
or helping to develop people or whatever else it is. I mean, I would tell you
Yeah.
in the last, I got,
Or, or even, hey, thanks for coming in today.
yeah,
And
thanks.
that could stop somebody right from calling off all the time. Oh, hey,
Yeah.
thanks for coming in. Glad you were here.
I
Is so important. And then, yeah, like I said, the employees are terrified of evaluation day, or the only time the boss comes to see you is when it's bad.
there has been probably no better days in my life in the last 4 going on 5 years when we get done with the Coffee Connect guys and I get an email, simple email from Lamar that says, hey, you're making a difference, right? Guys, that's all it takes, right?
Mhm.
That's all it takes to inspire someone to do better or continue doing what they're doing or whatever else it is. It does not take a lot. Listen, we're gonna wrap this up. We got one more breakout room. I want to get to this breakout room because I think this is the important piece of this. So Jeff, please shuffle up what you need to shuffle up, right? And so this goes to, how do we get beyond the typical formatted processes of feedback, and Ray started hitting on this, right? To create that true culture, right? For open and transparent dialogue. What do we need to do? How can we help influence other leaders, right? To be more open to the feedback that they can give, as well the feedback that they should be open to receiving from their higher ups, as well those that they are in charge of, right? Awesome, guys. Hey, we'll take a couple inputs from the forum here, and then we'll get into wrapping this up. So what do we need to do to get beyond the typical feedback formation, right? I mean,
I'd love it if Ray would share in 2 minutes how he gets everybody tied together in his organization.
I've created a culture of accountability and transparency. And so essentially, everybody that works for me inside of my real estate business, they understand why their job is important to the next person. And so no one's complaining about doing anything, but also we know who's accountable for what. So everybody is willing to help with everyone. There is no criticism because we're all focused on the same goal and you know why and what your role is inside of this one goal. So it creates just a culture of accountability and feedback. Like, one of my employees can hold me accountable for not doing something that they know that I'm supposed to do, and I have nothing to say. It's just making sure that I'm doing my job inside of this well-oiled machine.
And as part of their orientation, they spend time with other parts of your organization so they understand why it's important.
Correct.
All right. So you're building a team that understands the interactions of the whole group and the roles of other people and why it's important.
Yeah. For me, I found that that's the best way to create a culture. It makes everyone want to help everyone else because now you know how we all work and intertwine together. So even though I'm giving you constructive criticism or some sort of feedback, we all understand that it's to get to this goal as quickly and efficiently as possible. So that's it. I don't want to take up too much time.
no,
Not
go
this
ahead.
week.
Go ahead.
He needs a presentation on this. This is a lot more detail than
Absolutely. And it's probably going to be something that we're going to have to come back to. I think there's a lot of components individually that come back into feedback, right? And we'll wrap up with this, guys. We can all do better. I think that's the general consensus of what we all spoke of today. And we can also help others get better at being open to feedback, right? And giving feedback. And so, but it starts with, how do you make people feel, right? Are you making them feel included? Are you making them feel like they have a voice? Are you making them feel like what they say is going to matter if they rebuttal what you just told them, because it's not about the argument. It's about being able to rationalize. Renette came out and said, you know, being able to I think it was Renette, it might have been Rita, speaking in a calm manner, right? Just being able to talk to someone like they're a human, right? Versus talking to them like they're just another number on the assembly line. Okay. And so, hey, I really appreciate the openness and discussions today. I may even send this video over to my professor and say, hey, by the way, this is a great group of people. You might want to look at these conversations, because I think the resources that they're using to teach leadership and communication and feedback in some of these classes, right, are antiquated, right? Can we all agree that since 2020, we are in a different business environment and world environment than what we were before 2020? And I think we're using resources to teach these young people of things that were done in 2015, 2017, and even though they're recent, I think they're antiquated, right, in the way we're doing things. Talk to a young man or young woman today, they would never think twice about being open to walking into their CEO's office. And quite honestly, we as CEOs of businesses and things like that should be open to that, because who's bringing the next generation of ideas? Is it the 60-year-old in the office, right? Or is it the 22-year-old that probably just got out of college, right? And so we'll wrap up with this, guys. I know I encourage everybody. I think one of the things we said to get past this thing, right, is that we need to challenge everyone. Go out there and find 3 things about 3 different people that you can compliment people on today on what they're doing well, or the things that they're doing, or the things that how they look, right, how they put themselves together, or how they carry it. I don't care what it is, but 3 things, right, that are going to make them people's lives feel better. Go out there, have a great week, everybody. Remember, I love.
Rodney, do we have a show of hands of who's a veteran in here? You might have already done this. I know you are, Lamar.